Emperor Liu Jinjin, what exactly are you after by marrying me? Empress, the keys to the national treasury, the ledgers of your private vault, the salt taxes of Jiangnan, the trade routes at the border. Emperor, nothing else? Empress, oh, and that dragon throne of yours, it's made of Phoebe Jinan wood. It's worth a fortune. Eunuch, your highness, your drool is dripping onto the memorial. Ancient Story Time Ancient Channel. I hope you enjoy my stories. Please like and subscribe. I am Liu Jinjin, 15 years old. In my life, I have only one true love, money. Miss, here is the ledger from last month. The bank manager respectfully handed over a thick volume. I took the ledger, licked my thumb, and began flipping through the pages rapidly. The crisp clinking of copper coins was music to my ears, far sweeter than any melody from silk or bamboo instruments. Profits from the rice shop in the south of the city have risen by another 30%. Not bad. I nodded with satisfaction, my fingertip tapping lightly on a row of figures. But why are the expenses for the fabric store in the north up by 20 taels? Fine beads of sweat broke out on the shopkeeper's forehead. Reporting to Miss, we brought in a batch of new dyes last month. I raised my hand to cut him off. I know the price of dye has gone up, shopkeeper Lee, but the price you reported is 10% higher than the market rate. I narrowed my eyes. Are you taking kickbacks, or do you think I, Liu Jinjin, don't know how to balance the books? Shopkeeper Lee's legs went weak, and he nearly collapsed to his knees. I sighed, pulled a delicate bronze abacus from my sleeve, and began clicking the beads rapidly. 15 taels and 6 mace, that is the actual discrepancy. Don't let it happen again, I said without looking up. If there is a next time, you can go to shopkeeper Wang at the west end of the city to collect your final wages. Yes, of course. Thank you for your mercy, miss. Shopkeeper Lee felt as if he had been granted a grand pardon, wiping away his sweat as he retreated. I continued flipping through the ledgers when I suddenly heard a commotion outside the door. My personal maid, Xiao Chui, came running in flustered, miss. News has come from the palace, they are selecting a consort for the crown prince. The brush in my hand paused, causing a small blot of ink to bloom across the ledger. Crown princess? Wouldn't that make her the future empress? Just how much silver must be in an empress's private treasury? My eyes lit up instantly, and the mental abacus in my head began clicking away. The crown prince is 8 this year. By tradition, he will marry at 15, giving me 7 years to prepare. Becoming the crown princess means becoming the empress in the future, and the entire national treasury will be mine. No, the country's. But the empress's private treasury is bound to be substantial. Not to mention the palace allowances, rewards, tributes. Miss? You're drooling. Xiao Sui tentatively handed over a handkerchief. I slammed the ledger shut. Prepare the carriage, I need to return to the manor to see my father. 3 days later, I stood at the consort selection banquet, dressed in simple and elegant attire. My father had spent a fortune just to squeeze me into this selection. Although I was merely the daughter of a merchant, the Liu family was the wealthiest in the capital, barely qualifying me for the preliminary round. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has arrived. I bowed along with the crowd, but when I looked up, I nearly bit my tongue. That was a little brat wearing a bright yellow miniature dragon robe. The 8-year-old Crown Prince Xiao Jingyan was as cute as a porcelain doll, currently wearing a serious expression on his chubby face as he tried to act like an adult. My heart instantly turned to ash. How many years would I have to wait for this kid to grow up? My youth! My money! Your Highness, these are the noble ladies who have passed the preliminary selection. Please choose your study companions, the eunuch said respectfully. The little crown prince scanned the room, his gaze suddenly landing on me. He trotted over on his short legs and tugged at my sleeve. This sister is pretty. I want her. My mouth twitched. Sister? I'm old enough to be your moth, no, your eldest sister. The eunuch gave me a troubled look. This is the young lady of the Liu family. She is already 15. I fear she might be. I want her. The little prince began to throw a tantrum, looking as if he were about to roll around on the ground. It was common knowledge that the emperor doted on this youngest son. No one dared to cross him. And so, I, Liu Jingjin, daughter of the wealthiest man in the capital, inexplicably became the study companion to the 8-year-old crown prince. On my first day in the palace, I followed the guiding eunuch toward the eastern palace with a lifeless expression. Suddenly, the little prince leaped out from behind a rockery, giving me a start. "Sister Liu!" he exclaimed excitedly, grabbing my hand. "I'll show you my treasures." I was dragged along by him, thinking to myself that a child's treasures were likely nothing more than clay figurines or wooden horses. To my surprise, he led me to a heavily guarded storehouse, pulled out a small key, and opened the door. The golden light nearly blinded me. The room was filled with gold and silver vessels, precious curios, antiques, and several large chests overflowing with shimmering gold ingots. "This is all mine," the little crown prince announced proudly. "Father and my elder brothers give me so much every year." My fingers began to tremble uncontrollably. My professional instincts kicked in, and I had already started mentally calculating the total value of this room. "Your Highness." I swallowed hard. "Do you have any idea how much all of this is worth?" The little crown prince tilted his head. "Money?" I felt a pang of genuine distress. What a waste of God's gifts. All these treasures just piled up like this? Do you know how much interest they could be earning? "Your Highness, how about I teach you a game?" I flashed what I thought was my most amiable smile. "It's called Money Makes Money." From that day on, I became the crown prince's closest sister Liu. I taught him to recognize the value of currency, instructed him in simple bookkeeping, and even used candies as teaching aids to explain the concept of lending and borrowing. The little crown prince learned with great gusto. In less than a month, he was able to perform simple calculations using an abacus. "Sister Liu is amazing." He looked at me with sparkling eyes. "This is much more interesting than what the Grand Tutor teaches." I maintained a humble exterior while secretly rejoicing. As long as I kept this little ancestor happy, once he became emperor, even the slightest scraps from his table would be enough to sustain me for a lifetime. But I failed to notice that every time I taught the crown prince how to balance the books, a pair of eyes was watching us from the shadows. That day, as I was in the pavilion teaching the crown prince how to calculate land taxes, a majestic voice suddenly came from behind. "Jingyan, have you finished today's lessons?" The crown prince and I turned around at the same time. He jumped up joyfully. "Father." My knees buckled, and I fell straight to the ground. Emperor Xiaoyu had appeared behind us at some unknown moment. "Rise," the emperor said flatly, his gaze landing on me. "So, you are the daughter of the Liu family?" I kept my head lowered, not daring to look him in the eye. "Replying to your majesty, this humble girl is Liu Jingjin. I heard you have quite a method for teaching the crown prince how to manage accounts." The emperor picked up the ledger from the stone table and flipped through it, his eyebrows arching slightly. "This bookkeeping method is certainly novel." That was my improved version of the double-entry bookkeeping method. It was much clearer than the traditional single-entry system. "In response to your majesty, these are merely some minor tricks from the common folk," I said humbly. The emperor gave me a half-smile, then proceeded to ask the crown prince a few more questions. The young prince answered fluently, even offering several suggestions regarding the reduction of palace expenses. "Not bad." The emperor nodded, casting a meaningful glance at me before he departed. My heart leaped into my throat. Was he about to reward me, or had he discovered my designs on the crown prince's fortune and intended to have me beheaded? That night, I tossed and turned, my mind a chaotic blur of the National Treasury's mountains of gold and silver alternating with flashes of the executioner's block. 5 years later. "Sister Liu, look at this memorial." I set down the ledger and looked at Xiao Jingyan, who was now 13 years old. The little crown prince who used to roll around on the floor 5 years ago had grown into a handsome young man, though the way he looked at me was still as bright and eager as a puppy's. Flooding in Jiangnan, requesting tax relief? I glanced over the contents of the memorial. How does your highness think this should be handled? Xiao Jingyan frowned in thought, his fingers lightly tapping the table, a habit he had picked up from me at some point. Relief is necessary, but we cannot waive it entirely. He pulled out the abacus I had taught him to use, the beads clacking rapidly. Jiangnan had a bumper harvest last year, and every prefecture has grain reserves. We can order the granaries to be open for relief while simultaneously reducing taxes by 30%. This way, we provide disaster relief without emptying the national treasury. I nodded with satisfaction. The boy was already able to flexibly apply the financial management principles I had taught him. Your Highness is wise. I smiled and cupped my hands in respect. It seems I can now retire, having fulfilled my duty. Xiao Jingyan's abacus clattered to the floor, its beads scattering everywhere. Sister Lu is leaving? His voice suddenly rose, still carrying a hint of youthful boyishness. I tidied the ledgers on the table. Your Highness has begun to participate in state affairs and no longer requires a study companion. Besides... I paused. I am already 20. It is time for me to leave the palace and seek a future for myself. In truth, I had a plan long ago. Over the past 5 years, using my status as the Crown Prince's study companion, I had befriended many procurement managers in the palace and figured out the inner workings of the imperial merchants. Opening a trading firm after leaving the palace to specialize in supplying goods to the court would be a guaranteed profitable business. Xiao Jingyan suddenly grabbed my wrist. Sister Lu, you cannot leave. I want to marry you. I spat out a mouthful of tea. Your Highness, don't talk nonsense. I hurriedly wiped my mouth with my sleeve. You are only 13. I can be married in 2 more years. Xiao Jingyan said stubbornly, the tips of his ears turning bright red. I know what it means to take a wife. Sister Lu taught me that investments should be made early. I want to secure Sister Lu early. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could this child apply the business theories I taught him to something like this? Your Highness, I am 7 years older than you. So what? Xiao Jingyan raised his head defiantly. Father said that age isn't an issue. What matters is the sincerity of one's heart. My heart skipped a beat. The Emperor? Xiao Yu knows about this? Just as I was at a loss for how to respond, a eunuch's shrill voice rang out. By imperial decree, Lady Lu is summoned to the imperial study for an immediate audience. My legs went weak, and I nearly collapsed. Does the Emperor think I seduced the Crown Prince? That is a capital offense. Inside the imperial study, the scent of ambergris drifted in curls. I knelt prostrate on the ground, my forehead pressed tightly against the cold golden bricks, not daring to breathe a word. You may rise, Xiao Yu's voice came from above, his emotions unreadable. I stood up tremblingly, still not daring to lift my head. 5 years had passed, and this emperor, now in his early 40s, possessed an even greater majesty. A single glance from him was enough to strike the court officials into a deathly silence. I heard Jingyan wants to marry you? My knees went weak and I was about to kneel again, but Xiao Yu raised his hand to stop me. In response to your majesty, the Crown Prince was just speaking with childhood innocence. My voice trembled. Xiao Yu let out a soft chuckle. Jingyan has been strong-willed since he was a child. When he was 5, he said he wanted to raise a lion. I didn't agree, so he went on a hunger strike for 3 days. In the end, I had no choice but to have someone find a Pekingese puppy to coax him. I didn't know what to say, so I could only manage a hollow laugh. Xiao Yu suddenly changed the subject. Lady Lu, you have taught the crown prince for 5 years, and I have seen it all. Although you love wealth, you acquire it through proper means. Under your management, Jingyan's private treasury has more than tripled. A surge of joy hit my heart, and I couldn't help but look up. Xiao Yu was looking at me with a half-smile, playing with a golden key in his hand. That was the key to the national treasury. My gaze was instantly drawn to it, and I couldn't look away no matter how hard I tried. Do you want it? Xiao Yu jingled the keys, the metallic reflection dancing across my face. I can grant you wealth and status far greater than that of a crown princess. My breathing quickened. That key seemed to possess a magical power, captivating my entire soul. The national treasury. The silver inside must be piled high as a mountain. But in the next second, Xiao Jingyan's stubborn face flashed across my mind. That boy trusted me, giving me full authority over his private treasury without ever questioning a thing. I struggled to avert my gaze. Your Majesty must be joking. This lowly woman would not dare to harbor such delusions. Xiao Yu raised an eyebrow. Oh? I heard that you, Lu Jingjin, would even storm the gates of hell for the sake of money. I love money, but I cherish my life more, I said with a forced smile. Besides, the crown prince treats me with sincerity. I cannot betray his trust. Xiao Yu remained silent for a long time, then suddenly burst into laughter. What a fine cannot let down. Lu Jingjin, you have truly made me see you in a new light. He tucked the key away. Go then. I grant you permission to leave the palace, but on the 1st and 15th of every month, Jingyan may leave the palace in plain clothes for half a day. Feeling as if I had received a grand reprieve, I hurriedly kowtowed to express my gratitude. As I turned to leave, Xiao Yu added leisurely, remember, the promise I gave remains valid indefinitely. My footsteps faltered for a moment. I didn't dare look back and quickly hurried out of the imperial study. 3 days later, I stood before my newly purchased residence, looking up at the 4 gilded characters Jinyu Trading House on the plaque, my heart surging with emotion. Miss, the first batch of goods has been delivered to the palace. Eunuch Wang said the quality is superb and wants to place an order every month from now on. Xiao Sui came running in, brimming with joy to report the news. I fingered the abacus, smiling without a word. Those 5 years in the palace were not spent in vain. I had thoroughly mapped out every connection and relationship. Procurement for the palace is the most lucrative business, and with my status as the crown prince's study companion, I was naturally in the best position to reap the benefits. In less than 6 months, Jinyu Trading House became the new favorite of the capital. I specialized in palace trade, from silk and tea to curios and antiques. Whatever the palace required, I could procure, always with the finest quality and at a fair price, though, of course, my fairness concealed a 30% profit margin. On the 1st and 15th of every month, Xiao Jingyan would appear punctually in the backyard of my trading house. The 13-year-old boy brought a gift every time he visited, sometimes imperial pastries from the palace, other times rare treasures from overseas. Sister Lu, this is an ivory abacus offered as tribute from Siam. He presented it to me like a prized treasure. I knew you would love this most. I took the abacus, my fingers brushing over the exquisite ivory beads, a warm feeling spreading through my heart. This little ancestor actually remembered my preferences. Your Highness, this is far too precious. Call me Jingyan. He pouted. Outside the palace, I am not the crown prince, and you are not my study companion. I smiled helplessly. Jingyan, you cannot just give away these tributes as you please. His Majesty will be displeased. Xiao Jingyan spoke with nonchalance. Father said I can dispose of my private treasury however I wish. He suddenly leaned in closer, his bright, youthful eyes filled with earnestness. Sister Lu, I am serious about marrying you. When I turn 16, I will definitely marry you. My heart skipped a beat, and I hurriedly lowered my head to fiddle with the abacus to hide my fluster. A child talking nonsense. I am not a child anymore. Xiao Jingyan straightened his back indignantly. I've already started participating in politics. The plan for the Jiangnan disaster relief last month was proposed by me, and father even said it was good. That was indeed the truth. Xiao Jingyan was naturally gifted, and with the economic principles I had intentionally or unintentionally instilled in him over the years, he often performed brilliantly in government affairs. All right, Your Highness. Jingyan has grown up, I said dismissively, changing the subject. Come and take a look at this month's ledgers. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. Xiao Jingyan was now 15. He had shot up to be taller than me, and his voice had deepened. He remained steadfast in our twice-monthly meetings, though the gifts he brought became increasingly precious. South Sea pearls, 108 in total, just enough for a necklace. He opened the brocade box, the shimmering luster of the jewels dazzling my eyes. I suppressed the urge to rush forward and put on a stern face. Jingyan, these are too precious. I cannot accept them. Why? Xiao Jingyan frowned. You used to accept them before. You were young then, but now. I looked at his sharp, youthful features, my throat tightening. Now it's different. It was indeed different. At 15, Xiao Jingyan had become an elegant young man, often causing girls to blush and steal glances at him whenever he walked down the street. Yet I was already 22, an age when, in the eyes of others, I should have long since become a mother to several children. Xiao Jingyan suddenly grabbed my hand. Sister Liu, I will be 16 next month. I am old enough to take a wife. My heart jolted, and I hurriedly pulled my hand back. Don't talk nonsense. You are the crown prince. In the future, you must marry a lady from a prestigious family. I don't care. Xiao Jingyan said stubbornly. I only want Sister Liu. Over these past 3 years, I have read many books and even consulted Imperial Father. Age is not an issue at all. Emperor Wu of Jin's empress was 12 years older than him. I was speechless. Had this kid actually gone so far as to look up historical precedents? Sister Liu, Xiao Jingyan's voice suddenly softened, do you not like me? I looked into his moist eyes, which resembled those of an abandoned puppy, and my heart instantly melted. Over these past 5 years, I had watched him grow from a tiny tot into a tall, upright youth. It would be a lie to say I felt nothing for him. But... Jingyan, what is it that you like about me? I sighed. I'm greedy, materialistic, and I haggle over every penny. I like the way you look when you're focused on your abacus, Sister Liu. I like how your eyes light up when you're reading account books, and how high-spirited you are when you teach me how to make money grow. Xiao Jingyan said in one breath. Besides, Sister Liu is the most honest person I know. You never hide your love for money. Those people in the palace, they're clearly insatiable, yet they act so aloof and refined. It's disgusting. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This boy was praising my flaws as if they were virtues. Jingyan, you're still young. You'll meet better girls in the future. No, I won't. Xiao Jingyan said resolutely. I only want Sister Liu. He suddenly pulled a key from his robes and placed it in my palm. This is the key to my private treasury. I'm handing it over to Sister Liu to keep from now on. I know this is what Sister Liu likes most. I stared at the heavy key in my palm, my breath hitching. This was the Crown Prince's private treasury key. It contained countless treasures and was worth a fortune. Reason told me I should refuse, but my hand tightened around the key of its own accord. Seeing this, Xiao Jingyan's eyes curved into crescent moons. I knew Sister Liu would like it. He said triumphantly. Next month is my 16th birthday, and Father says he wants to select a consort for me. But I'm going to announce in front of everyone that I only want Sister Liu. I was so startled I nearly dropped my keys. No. Why? Xiao Jingyan asked, puzzled. I paced back and forth in a panic. If this matter blew up, not only would my trading house be finished, but I'd likely lose my head as well. Although the emperor seemed to indulge his son, how could he ever agree to the crown prince marrying the daughter of a merchant, and an old maid 7 years his senior at that? Jingyan, listen to me. I said solemnly, if you truly have feelings for me, do not breathe a word of this for now. Wait until you are truly in power. If your heart remains unchanged, then we shall speak of it again. Xiao Jingyan's eyes lit up. Sister Lu, does this mean you are willing to wait for me? With a flushed face, I neither admitted nor denied it. The youth let out a cheer and nearly picked me up to spin me around, but I hurriedly stopped him. Keep the key for now. I pressed the key back into his hand. If anyone finds me in possession of the crown prince's private treasury key, even 10 heads wouldn't be enough to pay for the crime. Xiao Jingyan thought for a moment, then removed a small golden key from his keychain. Then take this one. It's the key to a small chest in my private treasury. It contains all my favorite treasures, and now I'm giving it to Sister Lu to keep safe. I couldn't refuse, so I had no choice but to accept it. After he left, I curiously opened the small brocade box he had left behind. Inside was actually a stack of land deeds and banknotes, along with a note, Sister Lu's dowry. I've prepared it in advance. My nose prickled with emotion, and I laughed softly, muttering, that little brat. 5 years later. Boss, the accounts for the 3 northern provinces have arrived. I took the thick stack of ledgers, my fingertips dancing across the abacus. 5 years have passed, and my Jinyu trading house now spans the entire country, dealing in everything from silk and tea to salt, iron, and water transport. Now 27, I am the wealthiest person in the capital. Even the great noble families must politely address me as Boss Lu when we meet. The drought in the north is severe. Grain prices have tripled. I frowned at the accounts. Send word down, our rice shops in the north are to sell at the original price, with a limit of 3 dough per person. Zhang the accountant gaped, mastered this. This will mean losing at least 100,000 taels in profit. Do as I say, I replied without looking up. Also, prepare 30 cards of grain. I will personally escort them to the disaster area. After the accountant withdrew, I rubbed my temples. Ever since Xiao Jingyan formally entered politics at the age of 18, I have worked with him to implement the balanced grain law, where the government purchases grain at a fair price during harvest years for storage and sells it at a fair price during famine years to stabilize grain prices. This method was originally intended with good intentions, but the officials below have executed it poorly, and corruption is frequent. Now that the north is suffering from a severe drought, I must go and see for myself. Sister Lu is going to provide disaster relief again? A clear male voice came from behind me. The brush in my hand paused, and a small blot of ink bloomed across the ledger. I didn't need to look back to know who it was, Xiao Jingyan, the current crown prince, who has now grown into a handsome young man of 20. Your Highness has come uninvited again, I said, deliberately keeping a straight face. What would people think if they saw the crown prince of the realm scaling the back wall of a merchant's estate? Xiao Jingyan sat down across from me with a swagger, picking up my half-finished tea and draining it in one gulp. For 5 years, his twice-monthly visits had remained unshakable. However, the number of times he entered through the front door grew fewer, while his skill at climbing walls became increasingly proficient. I'm in disguise, he said, pointing proudly at his plain cloth robes. Besides, who in the capital doesn't know that the crown prince is on good terms with Master Lu? Those new policies we collaborated on have certainly filled the national treasury quite a bit. I shook my head helplessly. Over the past 5 years, since Xiao Jingyan began participating in court affairs, we had indeed collaborated seamlessly. I devised the strategies, and he implemented them in court. He provided policy support, and my trading firm expanded rapidly. This mutually beneficial relationship gave me more peace of mind than simple romantic feelings ever could. The drought in the north is severe. I set off tomorrow for disaster relief, I said, changing the subject. Your equal grain law isn't being executed well. Some officials are hoarding supplies to manipulate prices, and the common people are full of grievances. Xiao Jingyan's brow furrowed. That is exactly why I came. My father. The emperor is gravely ill, and those old foxes in court have begun to openly agree while secretly opposing my orders. My heart skipped a beat. The emperor, Xiaoyu, had been gravely ill for a long time, but judging by Xiao Jingyan's tone, I feared. What do the imperial physicians say? Xiao Jingyan shook his head, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his eyes. I'm afraid. It will be within the next few days. He suddenly grabbed my hand. Sister Lu, I'm scared. The 20-year-old crown prince looked like a helpless child at this moment. My heart softened, and I squeezed his hand back. You will be a good emperor. Then would you be willing? His eyes were filled with anticipation. I quickly withdrew my hand. Your Highness, we agreed that we would discuss this matter only after you have truly taken power. Xiao Jingyan was about to say something more when hurried footsteps suddenly echoed from outside the door. A man dressed as a guard rushed in and whispered a few words into Xiao Jingyan's ear. Xiao Jingyan's expression changed drastically, and he stood up to leave immediately. The emperor has summoned me urgently. Sister Lu, you should prepare yourself as well. There may be a decree for you. My heart tightened. Before I could ask for clarification, Xiao Jingyan had already hurried away. That night, a squad of the Imperial Guards surrounded my residence. The leading eunuch announced that I was to enter the palace for an audience immediately. My legs went weak. Being summoned when the emperor is critically ill is rarely a good omen. Inside the hall of mental cultivation, the scent of medicine was thick. Xiaoyu, lying on the dragon bed, looked ashen and gray. Where was the aura of the emperor who once intimidated the four quarters? Xiao Jingyan knelt before the bed, his eyes rimmed with red. Is Lady Lu here? Xiaoyu's voice was weak yet still clear. I knelt prostrate on the ground. This humble woman pays her respects to your majesty. Everyone withdraw, and Jingyan, you go out first as well. Xiaoyu waved his hand. I wish to speak with Lady Lu alone. Soon, only the emperor and I remained in the hall. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead, unsure of what he had up his sleeve. Lu Jinjin, Xiaoyu suddenly called me by my full name, come closer. I shuffled forward on my knees, approaching the dragon bed. Trembling, Xiaoyu reached under his pillow and pulled out a golden key, the key to the national treasury. My time is running out, and there are things that must be made clear. Xiaoyu placed the key in my hand. This key, I can give to you. I stared at the heavy key in my palm, my breath hitching. The key to the national treasury. This meant, Your Majesty, this humble woman does not dare to accept. Xiaoyu chuckled softly. Is there really money that you, Lu Jinjin, dare not take? After a few coughs, he continued, however, there is one condition, you must assist Jingyan, act as his financier, and help him secure this realm. Only then did I realize that Xiaoyu wanted me to continue serving as Xiao Jingyan's economic advisor. This played right into my hands. It allowed me to access the national treasury without having to get embroiled in the conflicts of the inner palace. I will certainly do my utmost to assist the crown prince. No, to assist your majesty, I said solemnly. Xiaoyu shook his head. You still don't understand. What I mean is. He suddenly lowered his voice, I know it is Jingyan you love, you just dare not admit it. I was struck as if by a bolt from the blue, left utterly speechless. For these past 5 years, Jingyan has left the palace to see you twice a month, come rain or shine. Do you think I didn't know? A hint of cunning flashed in Xiaoyu's eyes. I allowed it. Because although you love money, you have principles. Although you are shrewd, you do not lack kindness. Jingyan needs someone like you by his side. My face flushed crimson, and I was at a loss for words. Take the keys. Xiao Yu closed my hand around them. After Jingyan ascends the throne, the court will inevitably face turmoil. By securing the national treasury, you are securing his empire. I took a deep breath and kowtowed deeply. This humble subject obeys your decree. 3 days later, Emperor Xiao Yu passed away. 20-year-old Xiao Jingyan succeeded the throne, marking the beginning of the Jinghe era. The new emperor has ascended the throne, and 100 neglected tasks await undertaking. As a civilian economic advisor, I have begun to frequent the palace. On the surface, I offer counsel to the new emperor, but in reality, we share a tacit understanding. The key to the national treasury has always hung from my waist. The drought in the north continues to worsen, and displaced people are rising up everywhere. Xiao Jingyan and I discuss countermeasures day and night. We must open the granaries to distribute food and simultaneously punish the profiteers who are hoarding for high prices. Xiao Jingyan struck the table and rose to his feet. I handed over an account book. This is all the grain and silver I can mobilize. Take it for the emergency first. Xiao Jingyan flipped through the ledger, his expression shifting. This is your entire fortune. I shrugged. The drought is critical. There's no time to worry about that. Xiao Jingyan gave me a deep look, said no more, and immediately ordered the allocation of disaster relief. A month later, we personally visited the disaster-stricken area. Seeing the emaciated victims, my heart wrenched with pain. Once upon a time, I, Lu Jingjin, had eyes only for money, yet now I cannot bear to see the common people suffer. Is it that I have changed, or was this the real me all along? Sister Lu, look. Xiao Jingyan pointed to a porridge shed ahead. That is the porridge shed set up with your silver. As we approached the shed, the victims knelt to express their gratitude. A frail little girl, holding a bowl of porridge, said to me timidly, "Thank you, madam, for saving my life." My eyes welled up as I knelt down and stroked her head. Eat slowly, there's more if you need it. Xiao Jingyan suddenly raised his voice. Fellow citizens, the majority of the grain and silver for this disaster relief came from Lady Boss Lu's private fortune. She sold off her shops and family property just to save everyone from this fire and water. Upon hearing this, the disaster victims bowed to me one after another, calling me a living bodhisattva. I was caught off guard, my face burning bright red. Xiao Jingyan took the opportunity to take my hand in front of everyone. Lu Jingjin, I offer this realm as a betrothal gift. Are you willing to be my empress and rule this world together with me? My head buzzed, and the gasps of the surrounding refugees and officials felt as if they were coming from a world away. Has this little ancestor lost his mind? Proposing in front of so many people? Your Majesty. You mustn't. An elderly official collapsed to his knees. The Lu girl is the daughter of a merchant and 7 years Your Majesty's senior. How could she possibly mother the nation? Indeed, Your Majesty. Other ministers chimed in one after another. Please, reconsider. Xiao Jingyan stood up, his imperial majesty fully evident. My dear ministers, in this disaster relief effort, Lady Lu donated her entire fortune. Is there a single noble family that could do the same? She is well versed in economics, assisting me in implementing new policies and replenishing the national treasury. Is there a single court official who can match her? The ministers were left speechless. Xiao Jingyan continued, as for her age, Lady Lu is 7 years my senior, yet she understands the hardships of the common people better than I do. Having her as my empress is my good fortune, and even more so, the good fortune of the people under heaven. I stared blankly at the impassioned Xiao Jingyan, suddenly realizing that the 8-year-old crown prince had truly grown up, becoming a responsible and courageous emperor. Suddenly, someone among the disaster victims shouted, "Long live Lady Lu!" Soon, the cheers rose in unison. The ministers looked at each other and finally knelt down one after another. "We offer our congratulations to your majesty and her ladyship." I stood there, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. So, it's settled just like that? What about my business empire? What about my life of freedom? Xiao Jingyan leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Sister Lu, I've even given you the keys to the national treasury. Are you still not going to agree?" I shot him a glare only to see his eyes filled with tenderness and anticipation. In that moment, I suddenly understood what Xiao Yu meant before he died. I did like Xiao Jingyan. I just didn't dare to admit it. From the age of 8 to 18, I watched him grow up and accompanied him through his journey. There was a bond between us that transcended money. I had simply been using my love for wealth as an excuse to run away. Forget it, forget it. I sighed, though my voice carried an irrepressible hint of laughter. For the sake of these keys. Overjoyed, Xiao Jingyan picked me up and spun me around in front of everyone, drawing gasps and good-natured laughter from the crowd. On the way back to the capital, I toyed with the keys to the national treasury at my waist, and a question suddenly occurred to me. "Jingyan, did your father plan all of this long before he passed away?" Xiao Jingyan gave a sly smile. "Father said that when dealing with a money grubber like you, keys are far more effective than imperial edicts." I was speechless with frustration and reached out to hit him, but he pulled me firmly into his embrace. "Sister Lu, no, Empress Lu," he whispered in my ear, "from this day forward, both I and the national treasury belong to you." Blushing, I pushed him away. "Who cares about you? I only want the treasury." Xiao Jingyan burst into laughter, his voice echoing across the official road and startling a flock of birds into flight. "Your ladyship, this is the wedding itinerary drafted by the Ministry of Rights. Please have a look." I took the thick booklet, scanned it, and immediately frowned. 800 taels just for ceremonial candles? 1,200 bolts of red silk? This isn't a wedding. It's burning money. The Vice Minister of Rights wiped his sweat. "In response to your ladyship, this is ancestral tradition." "Ancestral tradition doesn't say we can't use cheaper red silk." I pulled out an abacus and clattered away at the beads. "According to my plan, we can save at least 30,000 taels, enough to build 2 schools." The Vice Minister stared in stunned silence as I slashed the budget with bold, sweeping strokes, his lips trembling yet unable to utter a word of protest. "It's settled then." I shoved the revised proposal back into his hands. "Oh, and replace the abalone at the banquet with carp. They're both fish anyway. Who's going to tell the difference?" The Vice Minister retreated, stumbling as he clutched the ledger, while I leaned back in my chair with satisfaction. Ever since I was crowned Empress a month ago, I have thoroughly audited the palace expenditures and eliminated countless instances of unnecessary waste. Those concubines and noble women who were waiting to see a merchant's daughter become a laughingstock now go out of their way to avoid me. Is my Empress saving money for me again? Xiao Jingyan stood at the doorway, though I knew not for how long. His bright yellow dragon robes made him appear all the more handsome and imposing. The young emperor had a smile playing at the corners of his mouth, his eyes brimming with indulgence. I rose to perform my salutations, but he caught me in his grip. "There is no need for such formalities in private." He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "You weren't nearly this well-behaved last night when you fell asleep counting your silver." My ears flushed, and I shot him a glare. Over the past month, Xiao Jingyan had become increasingly informal. Where had his imperial dignity gone? "Your Majesty, I am reviewing the wedding budget. I've managed to save 30,000 taels." Xiao Jingyan shook his head helplessly. "My Queen Lu, a wedding happens only once in a lifetime. Must you be so meticulous with the calculations?" I replied with conviction, "The money saved can be used for water conservancy. The North has just suffered a drought and is in urgent need of." Before I could finish, Xiao Jingyan suddenly pressed his lips against mine, stifling the rest of my words. The kiss was tender and lingering, and he only let me go once my legs had turned to jelly. "This is exactly what I love about you," he said with a light chuckle, pinching my cheek. "You clearly care for the realm, yet you insist on using a love for money as your excuse." Blushing, I retorted, "Who cares for the realm? I just can't stand to see things go to waste." Xiao Jingyan laughed heartily and pulled a memorial from his sleeve. "Very well, then would the money-loving empress care to look at this, the reform proposal for the Jiangnan Weaving Bureau?" I immediately perked up and took the memorial to read it carefully. This was the reform that Xiao Jingyan and I had been planning for a long time, aimed at breaking the monopoly of the great aristocratic families over the silk industry and allowing ordinary weavers to sell their products directly. "Add one more clause here," I pointed to a specific section, "establish a quality rating system and price according to quality to prevent inferior goods from being passed off as premium." Xiao Jingyan nodded and picked up his brush to add it. We leaned our heads together to discuss the details, sharing the same unspoken understanding we had for many years. Only now, I was no longer a merchant hiding behind the scenes, but the rightfully titled empress. 3 months after the grand wedding, I received the formal homage of the titled ladies for the first time in my capacity as empress. Those noble ladies were respectful on the surface, yet their eyes were filled with disdain. The Prime Minister's wife, leading the group, spoke with a particularly sharp edge. "Your Majesty is truly frugal. That phoenix hairpin seems to be last year's style, is it not?" I touched the golden phoenix hairpin on my head and smiled. "You have a keen eye, madam. This hairpin was crafted using the silver saved from my wedding ceremony. It weighs 6 taels and 8 mace, and it is solid gold." The Prime Minister's wife choked on her words, and I added, "By the way, I heard your son spent 800 taels on an actress last month?" The Prime Minister's estate is indeed wealthy. This palace is truly put to shame. The Prime Minister's wife turned pale and dared not say another word. After the morning audience ended, Xiao Jingyan heard about the incident and laughed so hard he could barely stand straight. "Empress Lu is indeed formidable." A single sentence was enough to shut that old hag up. I shook my head triumphantly, the beads on my phoenix hairpin jingling, trying to spar with me? I clawed my way up from the streets, after all. Xiao Jingyan suddenly turned solemn. "However, the Prime Minister's faction is indeed a nuisance. They oppose the new reforms and have been causing no small amount of trouble behind the scenes." I pondered for a moment, then took a ledger from the cabinet. "This is what I have uncovered over the past few months. The Prime Minister's estate holds 10,000 acres of land, yet they have never paid their taxes in full." I flipped to a page. "Furthermore, his brother-in-law has monopolized water transport and is artificially inflating shipping prices." Xiao Jingyan's eyes lit up as he took the ledger. "With this evidence, it will be enough to intimidate that old fox." I nodded with a smile. Coming from a merchant background, I know better than anyone where the skeletons of these great aristocratic families are hidden. Money can move gods, and it can also drag out ghosts and demons. Time flows like water. 3 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Under my assistance, Xiao Jingyan implemented a series of new policies, reforming the tax system, encouraging trade, and constructing water conservancy projects. The national treasury is now more than 3 times fuller than it was during the late emperor's reign. That night, I was sprawled on the dragon couch auditing the salt tax accounts, the abacus clicking and clacking rapidly under my fingers. After finishing his review of the imperial memorials, Xiao Jingyan embraced me from behind. "Empress, it is already the 3rd watch. It is time for sleep." "Wait a moment, this account doesn't add up." I didn't even lift my head. Yangzhou's salt tax is 20% lower than last year, yet sales have increased by 30%. Someone is definitely lining their own pockets. Xiao Jingyan snatched the abacus away and turned me around to face him. "Lu Jin, do you realize you haven't looked at me properly for 3 days?" Only then did I notice the dissatisfaction and grievance in his eyes. The 24-year-old emperor looked, at this moment, like a neglected puppy. "I was just helping you check the accounts." I defended myself in a low voice. Xiao Jingyan let out a huff. I think you love my money more than you love me. Of course, I replied subconsciously, but my heart skipped a beat when I saw the flash of hurt in his eyes. Over these past 3 years, Xiao Jingyan has showered me with the utmost affection and favor. He would take to heart every preference I casually mentioned. When my reforms faced resistance, he stood by me against all opposition. Even when I got up in the middle of the night to balance the accounts, he would only helplessly drape a cloak over my shoulders. I suddenly realized that, at some point, what I looked forward to was no longer the silver in the national treasury, but the way he looked at me, the tone of his voice when he called my name, and the warmth when he held me in his arms. This realization sent me into a state of panic. I mean... I stammered, trying to fix the situation, only to see a flash of mischief in Xiao Jingyan's eyes. Since the Empress only loves money, he said with faint gravity, then tomorrow I shall take back the keys to the national treasury, to save you from revolving around silver all day long. Struck as if by lightning, I clutched the keys at my waist. No. Why not? Xiao Jingyan pressed closer to me. After all, you don't care about me anyway. Who says I don't care? I blurted out. If I didn't. If I wasn't. The words caught in my throat, and my face burned fiercely. Xiao Jingyan's eyes lit up. If you weren't what? Flustered and exasperated, I grabbed a pillow and threw it at him. Xiao Jingyan. You're trying to trap me on purpose. Xiao Jingyan laughed heartily as he caught the pillow, pinning me down onto the dragon bed. Lu Jingjin, you've finally admitted it. What did I admit? I didn't say anything. I insisted, stubborn as a mule. Xiao Jingyan wouldn't let it go. You've fallen in love with me, haven't you? It's not just about the money, is it? I turned my face away to avoid his gaze, but he gently tilted it back. His eyes were so soft that they left me with nowhere to hide. So what if I have? I muttered under my breath, it's only because you were so relentless. Xiao Jingyan let out a cheer and swept me up in a spin, sending the account books and abacus on the dragon bed clattering to the floor. I knew it! He exclaimed triumphantly. No matter how much you love money, Lu Jingjin, you're no match for my charm. I pinched his ear in annoyance. Don't get ahead of yourself. If it weren't for your handsome face, who would want a little brat 7 years younger than me? Instead of getting angry, Xiao Jingyan laughed and leaned down to press his lips against mine. The kiss was sweeter than honey, making me forget every word of rebuttal. The next morning after the early court session, Xiao Jingyan mysteriously handed me a small brocade box. What is this? I opened it to find an exquisitely crafted key. The key to my private treasury, Xiao Jingyan said with a smile. Now, both my person and my wealth belong to you. I took the key, grumbling playfully, just another job to do. Yet I couldn't stop my lips from curling upward as I threaded the key onto the ring with the national treasury keys at my waist. The 2 keys clinked together, making a crisp sound that mimicked the rhythm of my heartbeat. Time flies like a shuttle. 7 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Our strategies for governing the country have yielded remarkable results, the people are prosperous, and the national treasury is full. The courtiers who once opposed me now praise me as a wise and sagacious empress whenever they see me. On this day, Xiao Jingyan and I were taking a stroll in the imperial garden. At 38, I still love balancing the accounts, and at 31, Xiao Jingyan still loves teasing me. Empress Lu, Xiao Jingyan said suddenly, I have something to tell you. I responded absent-mindedly, still calculating the autumn tax revenue and expenditures. The northern tribes have presented 10 Akeltech horses as tribute. My eyes lit up instantly. Really? Those must be worth. Also, Xiao Jingyan interrupted me, they sent a princess, claiming it is for a marriage alliance. The abacus in my hand fell to the ground with a clatter. A political marriage? Xiao Jingyan nodded, a cunning gleam flashing in his eyes. That princess is only 16, as beautiful as a flower. I narrowed my eyes, and so? And so, I was thinking. Xiao Jingyan deliberately drew out his words, to have her marry the Prince of Jinbei, uniting the two families through marriage to ensure a century of peace at the border. What does the Empress think? I breathed a sigh of relief and picked up the abacus. Your Majesty is wise. Xiao Jingyan leaned in. Were you jealous just now? Who's jealous? I said stubbornly. I was just afraid another person would come to share your private treasury. Xiao Jingyan laughed heartily and put his arm around my shoulder. Lu Jingjin, oh Lu Jingjin, after all these years, you're still as stubborn as ever. I leaned against his shoulder, gazing at the garden in full spring bloom, when I suddenly remembered the young emperor who had proposed to me before the refugees 10 years ago. Back then, I never imagined we would end up where we are today. Jingyan, I called to him softly, actually. Actually, your private treasury is much more interesting than the national one. I winked. It's filled with nothing but rare and precious treasures. Xiao Jingyan was stunned for a moment before catching on, laughing so hard he doubled over. My empress truly has never changed her original heart. I smiled as well, the sunlight hitting the two keys and making them shimmer with a golden light. From the age of 8 to 28, he gave me his complete trust. From the age of 15 to 35, I gave him my full intellect. We spent 20 years proving what kind of prosperous era can be created by a relationship that began with money yet transcended it. And this was the most profitable deal of my life, Lu Jingjin. Side story. My name is Xiao Mingyu, and I am the eldest princess of the current dynasty. At this moment, I am fretting over a table full of memorials. The snow disaster in the north requires relief funds. The water transport in the south needs river dredging. And those restless tribes in the west are stirring again. Every single item requires money, a vast amount of money. Meanwhile, my dear younger brother of the same mother, Xiao Minglan, is sitting across from me. He is holding his glittering little golden abacus, clicking away rapidly. His handsome young face, illuminated by the reflection of the abacus beads, looks exceptionally punchable. Sister, this budget from the Ministry of Revenue is at least 30% fluff. He didn't even look up, his fair, slender fingers flying across the abacus. The miscellaneous procurement column alone is overreported by 5,000 taels. And the Ministry of Works expenses for repairing the river embankments, the price of stone is a full 20% higher than the market rate. TSK, TSK. These old foxes really think our mother's skill with the abacus was for nothing? It's called genetics, don't they understand? I massaged my throbbing temples. And so? Your solution? Only then did he look up. In those peach blossom eyes, which so closely resembled our imperial father's, there flickered a shrewd light belonging to a top-tier and scrupulous merchant, a look entirely inconsistent with his age. Simple. First, for the disaster relief funds, there's no need to allocate the full amount in silver. Let Mainland Trading House supply cotton clothes and grain at cost. It's faster, cheaper, and prevents embezzlement by middlemen. Second, for dredging the water transport routes, we invite those Jiangnan chambers of commerce we're on good terms with to bid, the lowest price wins, and efficiency will double. As for the West. He set down the abacus, leaned in a few inches, and lowered his voice. Those tribes want nothing more than to trade their inferior horses and furs for our salt iron and silk. Have Imperial Father issue a decree granting me special permission to form a merchant caravan and monopolize border trade. I guarantee that within 3 years, without using a single soldier, I can make them economically dependent on our dynasty. By then, they will be even more afraid of border instability than we are. I looked at him, a 10-year-old boy whose eyes grew as sharp as a little fox's when discussing business. I had heard that this look was a spitting image of our mother in her youth, the male version, of course, and one where the student had surpassed the master. It was strange, really. Minglan and I are twins, yet our temperaments are worlds apart. From the moment I was old enough to understand, I was kept by imperial father's side to study the art of kingship and the strategies of governing a nation. He pointed to the map of the great territory and said to me, "Yuer, this realm will be placed in your hands in the future." I was steady and rational, much like my father emperor, destined to inherit the throne of the supreme ruler. As for Minglan, his life path was set from the moment of his first birthday ritual when he ignored the imperial seal and the precious sword, instead grabbing Mother Empress's golden abacus and refusing to let go. He loved gold, silver, and jade more than any toy. By the age of 5, he could master the double-entry bookkeeping taught by Mother Empress with creative flair. By 7, he began using his monthly allowance to run small businesses within the palace, even monopolizing the procurement of snacks for the eunuchs and palace maids. Toward this, Father Emperor and Mother Empress adopted an unprecedentedly open-minded attitude. The Emperor held the Empress close, watching his son haggle with his younger sister over a single East Sea pearl. He smiled with utter indulgence. "He's just like you, and that's wonderful. With you guarding the national treasury, I finally have someone to inherit my private coffers as well." The Empress pinched Minglan's little cheek, caught between laughter and tears. "You little rascal, look at the bigger picture. That pearl is only average quality. Next time the foreign states bring tribute, Mother will pick a better one for you. To do business, you must understand upfront investment and how to win people's hearts." Thus, under the indulgence and professional guidance of his imperial parents, Xiao Minglan, the only prince of the Jing dynasty, sprinted headlong down the path of commerce and wealth accumulation. Before he was even 10 years old, he had already become a little tycoon with wealth rivaling that of a nation. The tentacles of his Longji trading firm reached into every industry, effectively becoming the imperial family's white glove, specializing in lucrative deals that were inconvenient for the court to handle directly. "The plan is feasible," I decided. "We'll do exactly as you said. However, 70% of the border trade profits will go to the national treasury." Minglan immediately jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "Sister! You're burning the bridge after crossing it. I'm covering all the costs and bearing all the risks. 50-50 at most." I slowly picked up my teacup. 60-40, you get 40. Don't forget, without the Emperor's special decree, your caravans won't even make it past the pass. And, I paused, mimicking his shrewd expression, "You're currently worried about finding a market for that Jiangnan silk and Jingdezhen porcelain you've stockpiled, aren't you? The wives of those tribal chiefs to the west absolutely adore them." Minglan's small face crumpled in distress as she flicked the abacus beads with heartache. Finally, she gritted her teeth, "Deal. But for the next palace household department procurement, my trading house must be given priority." "Fine." I nodded, set down my teacup, and picked up the vermilion brush. "Now, get out and draft a detailed proposal for me. I want it before the morning court session tomorrow." Minglan let out a wail. "Exploitation. This is blatant exploitation. I'm going to tell Mother." I raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead. It's the perfect chance to let Mother see exactly how much that pair of former dynasty white jade receptors you accidentally broke last month was worth. Let's see if she settles your accounts first, or spanks your backside first." Minglan instantly wilted, his head drooping as he clutched his golden abacus and scurried out dejectedly to draft the regulations. Watching his small figure walk away, I couldn't help but chuckle and shake my head. At dinner time, the 4 of us sat around the table for our meal. The Empress Mother looked over the border trade proposal Minglan had submitted, nodding as she read, "The logic is clear and the profit estimates are reasonable. However, right here, the discount rate for bartering can be squeezed by another 0.5%. Those tribes don't know the market." Minglan's eyes lit up. "Thank you for the guidance, Mother." Father, meanwhile, was leafing through the memorials I had reviewed, his eyes full of gratification. "Ewer is becoming increasingly seasoned in handling government affairs. These comments on the disaster relief proposal are handled just right." I said respectfully, "It is all thanks to Father's excellent teaching." Father smiled and placed a serving of mother's favorite dish into her bowl, then said to Minglan with feigned nonchalance, "Lan'er, you've earned so much money, what do you plan to do in the future? Surely you don't truly intend to just be an idle prince with wealth rivaling a nation?" Minglan, his mouth stuffed with meatballs, said indistinctly, "I won't be idle at all. I'm going to open the largest banks and trading firms in the world. Even bigger than the ones mother had back then. When that time comes, elder sister will control the world's power, and I will control the world's wealth. With us siblings joining forces, let's see who dares to bully us." Mother let out a chuckle and tapped his forehead. "What grand ambitions! Just remember, making money is fine, but you must have a bottom line and earn it through honorable means." I know, Mother, you've said it 800 times already," Minglan muttered. "Besides, the money I earn will eventually be spent on elder sister's empire anyway. Just now, she even exploited me for 60% of my profits." Upon hearing this, Father laughed heartily and reached out to rub both of our heads. "Good. Excellent. One to guard the realm, and one to amass wealth. Your mother and I can finally rest easy." The candlelight flickered, casting a glow over the 4 members of the family in a scene of harmonious joy. I looked at my brother beside me, who was buried in his food while still calculating that 5% profit in his head, and then at my parents, who were smiling at each other with eyes full of nothing but contentment in one another. Perhaps this is the best possible arrangement. He need not be bound by the throne. He is free to pursue his mountains of gold and silver to his heart's content. I carry the future of the empire on my shoulders, but with him at my back, my realm will never know the worry of an empty treasury. We siblings, one holding power, the other holding wealth, will extend this golden age, co-created by our father and mother, into an even more distant future. And this prosperous era is just like the 2 keys that never left our mother's waist, one representing responsibility, the other representing devotion. Neither can be missing, and together, they shine with brilliance.